When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube. So, we're back on the Grease Goblins YouTube channel, and we are going to be discussing another one of the chapters, and a lot of these have been focusing on Catelyn as a character, because I think this is just another weird chapter to me, that Catelyn just fails her son and fails the Starks in general. But yeah, if you would like to see more of this type of content, subscribe, like, and comment for more of these A Song of Ice and Fire videos. And yeah, let's get into it. So, the chapter I am referencing is actually the first Catelyn chapter in A Clash of Kings. Now, what I'm specifically talking about, if you've not guessed by the title, is when Robb is basically sending Theon to the Iron Islands. Catelyn, like, does a rough thing, like, no, don't do that, it's not a good idea, or whatever. When she could have just said, as we've talked about in a past video, that Ned had these wishes that he wanted Catelyn to do. One of them was keep Theon close because we're going to need the Greyjoy force. Why didn't Catelyn just say to Theon, or not Theon, to Robb, your father specifically told me that we should keep Theon close. That was one of his last wishes before he died. Do you think Robb wouldn't have heard that and been like, okay, if my father said that and that was one of his last things, it must have been important? Because we understand why Robb does it, because it does make sense from the point of view of Robb, where it's like, okay, Theon's one of my best friends, he's like a brother to me, he would never betray me. But you have to realize what Theon was, Robb. Theon was basically a hostage. Theon's not wrong when he's thinking he's basically a hostage. If the Greyjoys even lifted a finger against the other kingdoms, or Balon said he was going to be king, Theon's head was gone. That's why, and we have a specific thing in the books where Ned's like, that's why he never really gets close to Theon, or, his soldiers in general, because he knows he's going to have to either order them to basically go to their deaths in some war, or he's going to have to kill, like Theon, because his father rebelled. So this is what I never understood as well, is why did Ned, when he knew Robb was going to take over, or would be, not take over, but would be the next person in line once, he died, why did he let Robb get so close to Theon? Because you have to think it'd be very difficult for Robb to kill someone that is his best friend, or somebody he considers a brother. I want you to imagine being told you have to kill your best friend because of something his father did. It's one of those situations where I think Ned really didn't handle that situation well. But getting back to the main premise, Catelyn could have avoided the entire Theon thing. And I'm not saying the North still would have been invaded, because it would have. I just don't think Balon cared about Theon that much. I don't think he considered Theon a son anymore at this point, and that's what we kind of see in the books when they have their conversation. And I just think, the Winterfell thing wouldn't have happened. Winterfell wouldn't have been burned. It would have been a very much more controlled situation. And Theon, ends up betraying Robb. And it's one of Robb's big mistakes in the wars. But it's also one of Catelyn's biggest mistakes. Because if you look at two of the overall things that bring down Robb, is freeing Jaime, which isn't Robb. Robb has nothing to do with that. Robb really can't. Maybe he should have kept Catelyn away from Jaime. But again, he can't really do anything about that, in my opinion. And then the other one is Theon being sent to the Iron Islands, where Catelyn could have stopped that, in my opinion, if she just talked to Robb more about it and brought up what Ned had said. I don't know, it's something that I don't think is a plot hole. I think George specifically left that out because A, he wanted this to happen, that Theon goes to the Iron Islands, and two, to continuously build upon this character that Catelyn is not the smartest character. She's not as smart as she thinks she is, and she's always portrayed as a kind of a protagonist, but she's a character that very much is the reason, in my opinion, the Starks actually fail. She fails Ned multiple times, from telling him to trust Littlefinger, to capturing Tyrion with basically no proof, and it was just stupid to believe Littlefinger in general, as Tyrion tells her. And then does this, where she frees Jaime, and then also just lets let Theon go. It's something that I think gets overlooked when in your first read through, because you're sitting here going, okay, this is Robb's decision, and sometimes you kind of forget about some minor things that Ned was telling Catelyn to do, half a book earlier. So I don't know, it's very weird. I think Catelyn just, the more you read the books, because I'm rereading the books, you just hate Catelyn more and more and more. And if you don't hate Catelyn, let me know why. Like, let me know what your reasoning is behind why you don't hate her character. I would assume mostly that, her love for her children and, her morale is decent, I guess. But I don't know. This is kind of a shorter video. It's something that I just like doing when I'm rereading the books and having these just kind of chapter breakdowns, because it just doesn't make sense to me why Catelyn wouldn't just say that. It would easily fix the problem. Robb, I feel like, definitely would listen, especially if it came from his father and was one of his last wishes. Definitely, that would have happened. I think Robb would have been like, okay, that makes sense. Let's not do this. But no, it never happens, and Robb pays the price for it. And so does, everybody else that gets killed or has to go on the run because of this. So, yeah. Also, Theon does not go through a good time because of this. If Theon had just... Here's the thing. Theon would have died at the Red Wedding, all the same. But that's better than what he goes through with Ramsay. Let's just put it that way. So, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. And I will see you guys in the next one. If there's any other, chapters you guys think are kind of weird or you want me to talk about, let me know. And I will try to do them as soon as possible. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.